Well, we can get started now, and then if anyone else joins us, I'll let them in. But thank you all so much for coming for another amazing fan collective. I'm so happy to have you all here. There's some new people haven't been to our events. There's some people that have been to our events before. So whoever you are, I'm very excited to have you here. But I'm excited to introduce you to an amazing speaker that I'm so excited for you guys to learn more about, get to know. This is Himi. She has been working in the music industry for what, the last few years now?
6 years, 6 years now almost.
Wow, yeah. So some similar to me too. She actually just started a new job and she is currently the senior director of audience development at Blue Highway Records, which is a part of Hive America. And I apparently, and I did say that a few times. But Kimi, thank you so much for being here. I'm so glad to have you, especially on 1D Day.
Literally, I was like so happy that I like remembered when you asked me first. I was like, wait, this lines up perfectly. Like I'm so excited I'm doing this. But yeah, no, thanks for having me. I'm really glad that to be here. No, I'm excited to like yap. I love yapping. So yeah.
Great. Well, I want to take it all the way back to the start of your fangirl days. So you grew up in Bangladesh and you've
Yep.
only been in the States about what, 10 years?
Yes, exactly 10 years now.
Yeah. So growing up in Bangladesh, what was kind of your favorite artists, like favorite things that you were doing and what kind of made you become a fangirl?
Honestly, that's just like so in Bangladesh, like my parents were super strict. So I never had like access to a lot of TV or internet. I didn't get my first cell phone until I was in college. So it was like a very different culture. And I grew up listening. So my mom and my dad, they both love music. And my dad's a big sports fan, and that's a whole different fandom that we can go into. So I kind of just like grew up like being surrounded by the energy of like loving things and loving things pretty like intensely. So that was kind of like my first introduction to what it really meant to be a fan. Like I remember my dad was so sad when Michael Jackson passed away. And I remember like no being like, "Oh my God, what is happening?" So and then in 2010, I saw X Factor and I was like, I see someone who looks like me and I want to learn what they're saying and I want to understand what they're saying. So I ended up like learning how to speak English just by like reading books and like watching a ton of YouTube videos, a lot of movies. So like Harry Potter and One Direction is a big part of like how I came to be. So I don't know, like I don't know if that helps answer the question, but happy anniversary to those who celebrate. Um, so yeah, that's kind of like my lore, I guess.
No, I love it. I love it. No, I remember when my friend Alyssa got us in touch and she was like, she is a big 1D fan. And the fact that we're literally doing this on 1D is crazy. But
Yeah.
after coming to the United States, did you come to the United States for college? And were you kind of looking to build a career in the music industry, or was it not on your radar yet?
So I like when I started becoming a fan, I joined Twitter, and that's like my badge of honor that my Twitter is like older than like any of my other social media platforms. So like I kind of knew about the music industry, like I knew about the A&Rs, I knew about the marketing, but like that was kind of it. Growing up in a South Asian culture, like the thing is you have to kind of do like either the engineering or the medical or like the traditionally successful pathways. So when I first moved here to the US in 2016, I went to college in upstate New York, Rochester, New York, and there I studied biomedical engineering. And I studied that, did that for 4 years, but then COVID happened, and I was like, I don't think I want to work in healthcare. And had a like come to Jesus conversation with my parents, and I was like, hey y'all, love you guys, but I don't think I want to do this. So ended up getting a master's at Fordham in data science specifically. And that was a different experience on its own, just because like Fordham is, I think, when I think about it, like college rankings matter a lot to South Asian parents. At least that's what my household was like. And I remember going to Fordham, and I was like, mainly went to Fordham because it was in New York City. I was able to stay at home and just like be able to commute, and like, and they also like had a really good work study program for the master's program. And my favorite part of that program was that even though it was in the business school, it was like part of a tech program. So I learned a lot of like different tech ways, but one of my favorite classes was like marketing insights and analytics. And from there, I learned that there's other ways you can go into the music industry. There's a whole plethora of things you could do: business development, insights and analytics, and like there's so many different ways you can enter the industry. And that was kind of how I ended up being here, if that makes sense. So yeah, roundabout way of saying no. I didn't start out to be wanting to work in the music industry, but then in 2020, I kind of was like, I really want to work in entertainment. And then I started there. I worked in magazines, and then decided eventually I got the right opportunity to come into the music industry.
No, that's amazing. And I feel like that's a big thing, especially when you talk to music industry professionals now. A lot of them didn't get their start working in the music industry at all. A lot of them have done like things like you working in data analytics, doing things like in healthcare. And I think that's a big part of when we look at the music industry, it can be easily pivotable from the skills that you've done before. But I would so after college, when you kind of had that reality check with yourself during COVID, were you kind of looking for jobs at this point in the industry, like based in New York, right at that point, especially when the industry was so closed and there was nothing that was really available at the time? How were you kind of like building your connections, getting to know people in the industry?
Yeah, so honestly, like I was looking at jobs in the industry, and a lot of them had these like vague requirements, and I was kind of just like, I am a new grad. I don't have this experiences. I'm probably not going to get these roles, but I still applied, like, because that honestly, like, have the confidence of a average white male. That's what my
Yeah.
mom always told me. So I was like, all right, cool. So I applied to jobs even when I didn't really qualify. And that didn't like lead anywhere because obviously it was 2020 and like people, and so 2021 is when I started applying for full-time jobs. And it was still like a very hard job market. Like people talk about a hard job market right now, which it is. I'm not denying that, but it was like completely closed off. You wouldn't even get the recruiters on the phone, right? You couldn't even get like, a HR conversation going. So that was a whole different beast. But the way I made my network, and to this day, I'm very happy that I did it this way. Once I realized that, okay, maybe music isn't the right stuff, like place for me to start my career, not because of anything, but besides the fact that like recruitment was so like stalled in the industry at that point. I decided to join Digilog, and taking it back to 2020. In Digilog, they would do these like community Zooms and stuff like that. So they had a panel with a bunch of data analysts and people who like worked in data and in the music industry. So they worked at Chartmetrics, Sony Music Publishing, and all these fun stuff. And I ended up reaching out to like three of them, and two of them are still my mentor. I literally talked to one of them like earlier today. So it's just like that's how I did it. Like I just reached out to them. And I think what was different about my approach back then, it was like I didn't go into it being like, hey, like, when you look up like how do you network, all of the advices end with the whole like, like then tell them like, oh, you're looking for a job. And I never once mentioned that. And I think that really helped me cultivate this relationship that now I have with two senior execs. And it's just like, that's the way I approached it, where it was like, I don't want it in an industry that always sometimes feels so transactional. It felt good to know that people were meeting me where I was. They were getting to know me as I was, and were still like talking to me, even though I didn't work in the industry? So that's how I kind of ended up doing it.
Well, I think that's a big thing because in the industry, a lot of people are very genuine. Most of the time, people that are in the industry are really nice and friendly and want to talk to people, even if it's just like doing a coffee chat or just like saying hi to someone at a networking event. There's definitely like many ways to kind of like build a network on a premise of being personable and being authentic. So with that, like can you talk about how you kind of learned more about like data analytics in the music industry and how important is data analytics to the music industry? Because I think it's like I just think that people don't always see the behind the scenes of it and how important it is to every single aspect of the industry.
Oh yeah, that is a worm of books that I could open at a different time. But I think what was really interesting is that so I started my career at Hearst Magazines as a entry level affiliate marketing analyst, and because of that, what I ended up doing is I ended up connecting with a bunch of like other data analysts and people who worked in our research or did like I literally would go on LinkedIn and look up people at like Sony, Universal, and then Louis Tomlinson ended up signing with BMG. So then I was like, wait, I need to look up BMG. And that's when I learned about indie labels and like smaller labels and other companies that work in the music industry. And I would go into like the people section and look up like data analysts or like data, and then it would populate a list of people, and I would just ping them and message them on LinkedIn. And then that's how I ended up learning that about like different sectors of the music industry. Like something that I didn't even know before I started talking to people was the fact that the recorded industry and the publishing industry are two separate entity. So like Bruno Mars is like distributed by someone else, but he was published by BMG at that point. So it was just like so interesting to learn how the different nuances. And my favorite part, I think, that I learned through that process was about songwriters and producers. That really just like kind of blew my mind. Like growing up as a 1D fan and then a 5 Seconds of Summer fan, I always knew that they were writing their own songs, but I didn't know the implications. Like we all knew Benetta, but we had no idea like where he was, how it was all coming and flowing through, right? So the more like traditional stuff about the music industry, I really learned like the business side of it through networking and like getting to know people. And then there's a book that really helped as I was like trying to get into the music industry. It's the all you can learn about all you need to know about the music biz. I feel like you know what
Oh,
you're talking I'm talking about.
yeah, no, and there's
Yeah.
multiple volumes.
Yes, like he just came up with a new edited version and I'm like, dang it, I can't it's like this thick.
Yeah,
And
no,
I
it's
was like, I
long.
can't, like, I'm like, dang it, now I have to read it again. And it was very instrumental because this book, literally, if you're an artist and you don't have any idea how to like even get your foot in, it literally talks you through like the label structure, the lawyer, the artist manager, like every single thing. And I think that book really helped me learn more about the industry. So that was really cool. And to answer the second part of your question about the importance of data, um, I can't like you don't like people don't even understand how much money gets left on the table and then redistributed after a certain period because someone somewhere forgot to put in the metadata. Someone forgot to put in the credits of the songwriters, singer-songwriters, and then the producers and all of the right agreements and the amount of stuff that get missed because not the industry, the artists or the creative side of it don't really understand the importance of the data. If anyone of you are really interested in going down that rabbit hole, there's this whole thing called the MLC black box. Like, look it up, it will blow your mind. And that was kind of when I was like, wow, there's a gap that isn't filled yet. That definitely could be filled. And this was back in 2021, 2022, when there were some data people, there were a lot of self taught industry professionals who like became data specialists in the industry. And even then there was still a gap. So they started hiring a lot of like data engineers. And by they, I mean like different industries. They started to hire different companies. They would hire like different data engineers or data scientists without really knowing more about the music. So that kind of is where my itch kind of came in, which is like I'm also just like a music lover. So it kind of just kind of came from there, I guess. I don't know if I answered your question. I've had a long day, y'all.
No, I know. Literally, like she literally just started a new job, what, like 3 weeks ago?
This
I
is the end of my second week.
yeah,
Well,
so
no,
it's
tomorrow's.
so we fully get it, but we're so happy to have you here. But yeah, no, about that data analytics, I think it fully goes unmissed, like the way you said, especially when it comes to like data analytics is very like important in who when we're looking at touring, where artists are going to go on tour, artist development, discovery, all those aspects of the music industry are shaped because of the data that's there. So it's like it's something that we've really seen more of a shift to more data analytic jobs and especially over like probably since COVID, there's a lot more now in the last 5 years than there were even before then. But
Absolutely.
yeah, no, but I definitely want to talk about your time at BMG because I know your time there, you kind of did a lot of different roles and different things that kind of helped you get to where you are now. So, after kind of what was kind of like the process of going to BMG and how did you kind of like move into different roles, develop quickly and keep growing and growing?
Yeah. So going back to Louis Tomlinson, because I will try to find a way to talk about that man at
Why
any and all
not?
time. Um, he did a pop-up event for, well, the one night only in New York for his first release with BMG, Faith in the Future. I remember going there as a fan. I wasn't in the industry, but I had my fandom friends that I met on Twitter, and we were all like hanging out, and that was kind of the moment when I was like, maybe I do really want to go in the industry. Like, I was just like, okay, I what do I got to do here in order to like get that job, or however you want to call it. So what ended up happening is I went home after that concert and ended up applying to every single analytics role that was open at BMG. I applied to 5 jobs. And then I, so this was November and Thanksgiving was around the corner, and I get asked to do a first round interview. So I was like, okay, like, okay, for context, I've been an entry level analyst for 1.5 years at this point, and I applied for a director role. I didn't think anything of it. I had like 4 out of 10 things that they wanted. And I ended up going in, and I guess my boss really liked me then. And then he moved me to the second round. And when I got into the second round is when I realized the job's in Nashville. So that was a fun surprise for myself as well. And then 2023 January, I get offered the job, and I literally told my boss, "You're joking. Like this is not real. Like you're joking. You're kidding with me." And turns out it was real. Ended up moving to Nashville that year, and I started in the rights and royalty space, focusing on the publishing side and really trying to automate a lot of their reporting. BMG is very like advanced compared to a lot of other places in terms of the royalty processing system and the payments that they were giving out to artists, writers, producers. So that was something that I really enjoyed learning about. I had a very high learning curve because um I had to learn about like unclaimed royalties, and then had to learn a lot about like different gaps in terms of reporting and stuff that was important to the teams but wasn't necessarily made available. So even like there were stuff coming in from Billboard, our RIAA certifications, and things like that. So I was learning a lot really fast. I was part of a service team that served both the recorded side and the publishing side, and then it was a global team. So it was a really good opportunity for me to learn about the different ways the business functioned, both within North America, then how South America came into it. And I think that was very eye opening, just learning about different rates at different places. And then also learning about how Europe, EU, and like Australia came into play, and how the business works so differently across the globe. And I think sometimes it's easy to get lost, like, oh, this is how it's done in LA or New York. And I'm just like, that really allowed me to learn how the business was done in different parts of the world. And then that I did that job for about 2.5 years. And then from there, I took part in a data competition or a data hackathon in Measure of Music. I don't know if any of you ever attended that. So in 2025, last year, yeah, I ended up doing the hackathon, and we ended up my team and I ended up winning first place for that. And that put me on the radar for the head of um what's the name? Head of promotions and innovation at BMG. And through that, he put me in front of the president of the label and like the Americas, as they call it. And through that, he met me and he really liked me. And then he had me interview with the A&R team, and they didn't have this functionality. They didn't have this role where, because a lot of the other majors, as we know it, are using A&R research, right? Like go on LinkedIn, someone has a thought piece about using data to find artists. Like that exists, right? So they were trying to become competitive with the majors, and for that, they brought me in. So they ended up interviewing me and then finding me. And that opened a different side of the business that I was aware of, like marketing, A&R, the creative, the publicity, all of that. I was aware of that as a fan. Like the amount of time I would go on Twitter and bash Simon Cowell for no reason. Like it's a little wild. I'm not gonna lie. So that's really allowed me to learn a lot about that side of the business and really understand the whole artist discovery process, artist development process, and how any of like how all of that works. So yeah, I did that for about a year and a half, and that I left that job 3 weeks ago.
Yeah, no, that's really cool to hear about because I think when we think about the music industry, there's so many opportunities, but a lot of them don't come from like just like fully applying to a job or just like it really comes from like building those connections, getting your name out there, those types of things. But I know we talked a little bit about networking before and you talked about your mentors. How has mentors impacted you over the year from like right when you were starting out to now?
Honestly, I think the biggest thing I took away as I continue to grow in my career is all of them have either experienced the stuff I'm already experiencing or probably have a different point of view and will call you out on your own bullshit. And if you don't like that, then you don't want a mentor, you want a yes man. And I think that has been the biggest difference for me because my mentors, I have three, and two of them started in the data space. They're still in the data space, and one of them is now the general manager for Bravado. And he found me through Measure of Music, and then we ended up just building a relationship. I think what's been super helpful is like from a data perspective, my two mentors, they're both females, and it's been really fun to just get to talk to them about some of the stuff I see, some of the stuff that I'm experiencing, and I want advice on how best to like move forward or how best to like if I ever fuck up, I'm going to one of the three and I'm asking them like, how do I walk this back? Or if I'm not walking it back, how do I move forward without the level of like embarrassment that I know I'm feeling, you know? So it's kind of been really helpful in that regard. And then also the other way it has been super helpful is education. Like there's stuff like I'm chronically online, but then there's stuff that I'm missing. Like there's stuff that's happening in the data space or in the technology, like the tech space, merch space that I am probably not up to date on because I'm probably haven't scrolled on LinkedIn or X or something, right? One or the other. And sometimes they will see things or read things and then they'll send me stuff like articles and stuff that they're like, I think you'd enjoy it. So like that knowledge sharing has also been super helpful. And I think that's something that I really enjoy that the people that I've like built these relationships with, they know that I'm hungry for knowledge, so they continue to fuel that as well, and vice versa. So,
Well, that's a big thing in the music industry. It's if you're not consistently growing and learning, you're not going to be here in like 5, 10 years. And that's just unfortunately what the case is, because in an industry that's constantly changing and constantly evolving, that's just how it's gonna, the cookie crumbles at the end of the day. But I definitely want to talk about, because we've talked about mentors and like how they've really helped you with knowledge. I'm sure they've also helped you kind of build your confidence and like trust your gut when it comes to growing your career. How have you kind of learned to develop that confidence over the years and like trust your gut to move into new opportunities, to build your resume and things like that?
That one's hard because I feel like I'm still doing it.
We're
So
all doing it.
I think part of it is that I really, whenever I felt unsure of myself, I kind of go back to some of the things that I've learned through my mentors, which is make problem the problem, not people. I think that's something that I needed to learn, and I learned that through one of my mentors. His name's Eric, and that he kind of taught me that. And then I think in terms of confidence, I don't know, like it's been really helpful to have two really strong female leaders to look up to who just like aren't part of my immediate vicinity, right? Like I don't work with any of them. I've never worked with any three of them, honestly. So like for me, it's just like knowing and seeing the impact that they're having, and that really is helpful because I can go to Stephanie and be like, I'm feeling all of these things, and then she'll remind me like, do you remember the cool thing you built while you were at BMG? Or she'll remind me of like, do you remember how much money you cleared with your tool 2 years ago? Like, do you remember? Like, she is very good at reminding me of like all the stuff that I have accomplished. And then, kind of just like thinking about like today when the mentor that I was talking to, I was talking to her. Her name's Michelle. She's based out of Singapore. I was talking to her today, and I was kind of telling her like, "Hey, I'm like not sure what I'm doing here. Like, I just feel like very like not super confident right now." And she kind of reminded me, like, do you remember in 2020 when we first connected? This was the job you wanted to do, and
Mhm.
this is where you wanted to be. And look how far you've come. Also, they hired you for a reason. So kind of being like really motivational speakers for me has been really helpful because they just kind of like constantly remind me of like how far I've come. But also the other thing I really enjoy that has really helped build my confidence is the fact that if there's like cool people that they think I should get to know, they will connect me or they will give me the contact and will give me their blessing to be like, hey, go connect with this person, or hey, go talk to this person. And sometimes they'll put me in emails with them, which is also like always really fun. So that also gives me like a level of like self-confidence boost that like they see something in me, they believe in me. Because like at the end of the day, like time is precious. Time is like, I hate saying the phrase, but time is money. So
Mhm.
like how do you know, it feels good to know that some senior, like a general manager at a label is choosing to tell someone else in that label about me. That means that he sees something in me. So like reminding myself of that, like they understand where you're coming from and they see the value that you would add. I don't know if that helps answer your question. I feel like I didn't answer your
No,
question.
it definitely does, because I think in a there's a lot of imposter syndrome in the music industry, especially being a woman in the music industry, being a woman of color in the music industry. We're in such a male-dominated field, and while we want to see more fans working in the music industry, obviously, it would be great to see more equality in the music industry from that perspective. But so I fully get what you were saying, but I want to definitely pivot into your new role. You're, like I said, Senior Director of Audience Development at Blue Highway Records. Second week, what kind of made you want to join that team, or what are you liking about the experience so far? I know it's early, but
I think what I'm really enjoying is like, so like I said, I worked in A&R research and I learned a lot about the creative side of the business and how like, you know, artist discovery works and artists like research and audience like artist development work. But I also wanted to really learn about how do you use like data to kind of drive, and I hate using the word, the narrative behind a new rollout. Like I was so always so intrigued by like, hey, like I don't know who's like Charlie XCX is doing these like pop-ups. She's doing it in Nashville. And like I'm just so intrigued. I'm like, why did he choose Nashville? Like what data or what led you to make that decision? So I really wanted to learn more of the strategy side of like rollouts or even like partnerships, right? So like I would see there's like, oh God, I'm trying to remember one that I can't for the life of me remember. Um, am I crazy? But didn't Olivia Rodrigo do a partnership with Stanley?
I think so.
Yeah, yeah,
Uh,
yeah. She
yeah,
has one. Yeah,
yeah.
so like stuff like that. Like I want to understand why Stanley? Why not a like hydro jug? Like why not? So my question, so I wanted to really understand that side of the business, and I'm very lucky and fortunate. I went to a conference called Hits Home at the beginning of this year, which is so lovely, and they're doing, I don't know if you guys know about this organization, but they're doing like a free um like online conference for like college students in the music business in like 2 months or later.
Yeah.
Yeah,
No, I think it's like early career too.
yeah.
Nick runs, it's called
Yeah,
Jump Global.
yeah, Jump Global. Yeah. So they hosted a conference called Hits Home. And that's when I met Alex Hanaby, who leads Hybe UK. And I ended up talking to her, and she put me in touch with Tim, my now boss. And we just ended up chatting. And I kept chatting with him, like getting lunches with him, coffees with him. And none of that was with the intention of leaving BMG and coming to Blue Highway. It was all like, I was just like so hungry to learn. Like, what takes you from like level A to level B? Like, how are you using data to drive your streaming strategy, or how are you using data to like drive your um like in-person events? Like, what is like how are you deciding these things, right? And at one and then right after Juneteenth, him and Jake Baston, the now CEO, they offered me the job. And they wanted to use, I think that what they really want me to do is kind of identify how to turn fans, passive fans into active fans, and how to like really pay attention to the casual fans. There's an op-ed on Music Biz Worldwide about like how the music industry doesn't pay enough attention to the casual listeners and the casual fans. And I really resonated with that. I was like, okay, well, there's this huge plethora of people who are listening to the music, but I know how much joy and love and community I got out of listening to One Direction, Louis Tomlinson, Harry Styles, all of the fun people, right? So I was like, how do we get them to feel that sense of community? Like, how do you get them kind of to come in and stuff? So yeah, long-winded way of saying that this kind of just came out of nowhere. And I ended up accepting because I've been wanting to move to this like side of the business for a while. And it just like, was the right time, right opportunity. And yeah, I'm still new, so ask me again in like 2 months.
No, I know. I was just like, let me ask her this and see how it changes over the time.
Yeah.
But I know when you relocated to Nashville a few years ago, to Nashville, and you came from New York, how have you kind of seen like the music industry kind of differ in both places, and what do you like about each location when it comes to networking and things like that?
I think in Nashville, I don't know, it's difficult to answer. I think in New York it was more very like group activity driven, so to speak. Like getting people to agree to one-on-one coffees was really hard, which I understand because like everyone lives like further out and it is harder. Like they'd rather hop on a Zoom. But I'm such an in-person person that I'm just like, I get to know someone better when I get to be face to face with them. And that's just me. That's a me problem. That is not a New York problem. That is a me problem. I also think different departments too. So a lot, I don't know, from when I was in New York, New York was great for me to like learn and meet people on the tech side of the business. So like people who are creating cool apps, and I mean a bunch of the people that I know who work on the tech side of the business, they're all in New York. So that was really lovely like getting to connect with them. But then coming to Nashville, I got to connect with more. creatives. I'm sure like there's A&Rs and like marketing professionals and people who live in New York for sure. But I think it was a little bit more attainable here for me to connect with people who are working with the publishers and with the songwriters, with the producers. Because like a song does just doesn't happen, right? It starts with the lyrics, it starts with the melodies and all of that fun stuff. So I think that's a big difference, I will say, um, that has been interesting to see for me. But I think there's different strengths in both of the sides of like the coastals versus Nashville and Atlanta. So it's like really interesting for me to like learn about that kind of stuff. And I don't know, like Nashville really is Music City. Like a lot of the pop singer-songwriters have moved to Nashville. I didn't even realize Sabrina Carpenter has a house here, which was like a wild like educational moment for me. But also I think, okay, one of the things I really love about Nashville, and this is just a Nashville compliment, not like a comparison between the two, is if you see like Keith Urban walking down the street, and you say hello, that's it. Like you treat every celebrity here like they're normal, like they're just like you and me, you know? So
Mhm.
it's I really love that part where like celebrities feel comfortable enough to just be out and about without like cops. I've been here long enough where I'm like, I've never seen a paparazzi here. And
Yeah.
I think that's something that I definitely like really enjoy, so to speak. So
Mhm.
is
And
this
I
being
think,
recorded? I'm
yes, it is.
like,
No,
okay.
you're doing great. You're doing great. I
All right.
No, but that's a really good point. And I also think it's because we're seeing a lot more music industry jobs in Nashville, especially over the last few years, because it is a big music hub. When we always think about like New York, LA, London, but Nashville, that's where all the tour professionals are. That's where all the songwriters are. They're doing their songwriter camps all the time in Nashville. So it's like it's a big place, especially like when you're just starting out. So I personally have not been to Nashville yet, but I need to get there. But
You need to come visit.
no, I know. We'll get there eventually.
Yeah.
But I okay, so we're just approaching that time where we're gonna go through the Q&A portion. So, just so everyone knows, you can either ask your question in the chat or you can raise your hand in the Zoom and ask your question directly to Himi. So, uh, I'll go, so whoever wants to go first, you can raise your hand now or you can type it in the chat and we'll get started with that. Okay. All right, Miriam, you can go.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yep.
We can hear you.
Awesome. Thank you. So hi, Himi and Jenna. So nice to meet you both. So honestly, I saw when you posted about this, Jenna, and I was super, super excited because you mentioned Himi that you're from Bangladesh and I'm a Bengali myself based in New York. I feel like there's a lot of Bengali people here in New York City. And I was just like, oh my gosh, I've never seen a Bengali woman in music industry before. So my question was really about as like a Bengali myself, as like a South Asian woman myself, I was wondering for you, how did you face any challenges regarding being like a woman of color or like a South Asian woman of color? And how did you navigate that? And also just want to say really cool to see you like speaking and kind of being a role model for like other South Asian women like me who like honestly growing up I didn't really see this as like an option for me. Like I kind of like you grew up with parents super strict, have a background in engineering. But I loved music, loved One Direction, and I never saw it as like a possibility. But yeah, just wanting to know how have you felt being a South Asian in the music industry? And honestly, from what I'm hearing, it seems very welcoming, but I just love to hear how you navigate that.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's well, first of all, like thanks for like all the kind words. Like like it means more to me than I could ever explain. Because, like I said, like I started learning how to speak English because I saw Zayn Malik on TV, and like he's Pakistani, like he's not even Bengali. So I was like, I already started learning because of that, right? So I mean, personally, I remember like when I first started networking, I would like draw towards women or women of color and just like kind of more like wanting to connect with those people. So like I mentioned two mentors. One of them, she's Asian, and she's like someone that I look up to like a- at all times. I don't know, like the challenges are interesting because it's like things you wouldn't think that are offensive or bothersome. Like, I don't know how many of you listen to country music, but I work in the country music industries and there's a lot there, right? So the best way I've been able to navigate this is I've had really good leaders who call people out when they say inappropriate things. I think has been really grateful. That's something I'm grateful for. And that has been a huge help that I have never accepted a job if I didn't know that I could trust my leader, and that is a huge deal to me that I like I always like have at least 2 3 interviews with my leader, like whoever is going to be technically my boss. And that was really helpful, I think, like having good leadership, but also building. There's a book called Radical Candor that I really love. It really teaches you about communications and how to communicate in a professional and like corporate setting that I really like. And that really allowed me to learn how to communicate with my boss. So that really helped whenever there were uncomfortable situations. Um, and as a woman of color, as a woman in general in tech, what was really helpful for me was the um, fact that I had again a really good boss who spoke up for me at all times. So that was really helpful to have a leader who like knew that he knew what I wanted to do. So that was also really helpful because obviously I started out in the rights and royalty space, but he always encouraged my growth. He is the one who put me in touch with all of the streaming team and the DSP teams. And that allowed me to learn more about how like Spotify works or Apple works. So like having good leadership is how you deal with it is honestly the best way I can put it. And the other thing is, I think oftentimes growing up South Asian, in America, whether you grew up here, I didn't grow up here, right? So I have a different perspective that I bring to the table. So when during interviews I'm asked specific questions, I'm able to like answer and I'm able to kind of explain from my perspective, a different perspective. And if someone you're talking to is a good leader, they will understand why that is important and why that's a reason to hire you. So that is how I think I dealt with the most of it.
Yeah. I think that's a big thing is having good leaders in the music industry is very important because personally I've had some really bad ones and it kind of made the experience traumatic. So when you have like an amazing leader, that just makes the experience so much better. Um, but Kira, am I saying that right? I'm sorry if I said that wrong. You can
You're
go.
good. It's Kyria, if you can.
Kyria, I'm so sorry.
Okay, cool. Yeah, no, good. Just hi to both of you. This has been super cool. I feel like I've already like taken in a lot of good things. Quickly before I ask my real question, you said you went to school in upstate New York. Where did you go in Rochester?
U of R.
Oh, okay, I went to RIT, so I was just curious.
I've spent a lot of time at RIT, so
Yeah, and I same. I've had a few trips to U of R, so I was
yeah.
just curious. That's cool. Um, just asking, obviously you kind of broke into the music industry not really like intending to start off there, and I know that you mentioned at one point kind of you found job opportunities like doing an event you had that like hackathon event. Um, is there like how much work do you do outside of work, I guess? Like was hackathon like a more like a personal project that you were able to like take on and that kind of led you into that opportunity? Because um I'm just thinking like in terms of getting into the spaces that you want to be if your current employment like doesn't align fully, like what kind of personal endeavors, projects would you suggest taking on?
Yeah, I mean, that's a great question. So the hackathon, it was 24 hours. So you have 24 hours to build something essentially, or 48 hours, depending on which hackathon you do. This was a completely data project. And this conference was on a weekend. This was meant for like early career professionals who like wanted to move more into the creative side or even wanted to come into the data side of like the music business. The conference is literally called Measure of Music. So it was very heavily data focused and it was on the weekend. And frankly, like being completely transparent, like after working in the music industry for 2.5 years, I wanted to see like what other like I for a second was like, I need to learn more about the other side of the business and how data is used in that side of the business. So that's why I took part in the conference to begin with. So I took any and all free opportunities that existed for conferences or networking opportunities. So the Digilog used to host, I think they still do it. I'm not sure, Jenna, I could be wrong, but they used to host these not con- I don't want to call them conferences, but like conferences essentially, where it was like 2 days long and like
Oh, the one in Brooklyn.
yes, yes, yes. That's
Yeah.
the one I'm talking about. That's where one of my headshot was taken. Like I literally got a free headshot at this event. So
Mm.
like so for me it was like finding free opportunities, whether online or in person, that would allow me to just like be in those rooms. So I could like talk to people and get to know them was super helpful. I am a like yes, I got my that job in the A&R research space because someone somewhere put me in front of John Loba. But at the end of the day, it was still my skill set. The two jobs I've gotten in my like so something I take a lot of pride in is that I have always gotten job offers when like my job offers that I've gotten from Universal, Live Nation, Sony Music, BMG, or even like Republic. All of them was through applying. All of those were through fixing my resume in a way that actually matched the job. And that's how I ended up doing it. So that's like the first part of it, which is like really changing your resume. No matter what you're doing, all of your skill set is pivotal. Like you can pivot it into the music industry. Like Jenna posted a great example of it recently about like how you can use your like fandom and your fan pages and all that fun stuff to like really put it in your resume. So that's the first part. The second part of the answer is when I started in BMG, I was also doing freelance work for independent artists because I really, again, wanted to come into the fandom side of it all. So I just like found independent artists and I was like, hey, like, I'm trying to do this thing. You're independent. You don't have, and okay, I don't recommend this, but it worked for me because I had a full-time job. I did a lot of free work in terms of strategy for a couple of artists. And that allowed me to like really learn like how an artist thinks, how to talk to different creatives. And yeah, it was free, but I learned a lot. And it was something I could add on my resume because I was able to like add like, hey, like I use data to drive this artist's growth, whether that's on social media or stuff like that. Again, like if you the only reason I was able to do it is because I had a full-time job and I could afford my life. And so on the side, I was doing it. I was also kind of a loner when I first moved to Nashville, but that changed after like the first 3 months. So I had time.
All right, I'm just gonna go to the chat. Ali, we'll get to your question in a second, but Esme asked a really good question. She said being in the music industry is a lot about being on top of industry news and trends. How have you dealt with burnout? And if so, how do you cope and maintain a positive work-life balance? Because this one's the music industry and a positive work-life balance is tough.
It okay, so BMG and so far at Hybe, what I've noticed is they really prioritize your well-being. Your if I ever needed to take time off to take care of myself, no reason. Like I did like I remember very distinctly when I was planning my wedding, there was a so I had 3 months to plan my wedding, South Asian parents once again. And during that time, I remember one day I was just like completely burnt out. It was distribution season and I was like doing so much freaking work. And I was like, oh my God, I need to take a day just so I can like deal with my personal stuff. Like I said, again, goes back to leadership. If you have a good leader, they will be able to understand why you need to take the time so you don't burn out. So that was really important to me. And that's how I maintain a good positive work-life balance. Like even my boss now, I recently told him like I literally just started. And I was like, hey, I have to take a half day that I for a thing that I was already planned, right? And he understood that and he knows that, right? But it's also upon you. Like if you have flexible PTO, it's upon you as well to like know how to utilize it well. So kind of that's like the positive work-life balance. As for the news trends and people, and I hate saying this, but this is just the nature of the world. I have been able to like build agents utilizing Claude and Chat GPT and stuff like that, where it will populate specific trends and stuff that I need to stay on top of for my job. So I really narrowed it down in scope, but that is my last resource. I signed up to a lot of newsletters. My literal part of morning routine is I go and read through different newsletters.
Mm.
And I that is literally I spend 30 minutes, dedicated 30 minutes, just skimming through the newsletter that MBW sends out or like roster or God, I forget A&R Worldwide. So like I would read all those things and that was super helpful because like I was learning. And I'm also just like a very learning hungry person. So like whenever I have time, like after work, if I'm like watching TV, chances that I'm also just reading news.
Mm.
So also on top of that, trends don't always have to come from the music industry. So reading, marketing, and advertising newsletters are super helpful. If you guys follow, there's a really great company called Morning Brew, which is just a newsletter that you can read. Highly recommend. They also have a marketing one. So I highly recommend reading both.
Yeah, and there's also Music Alley. Their newsletter is pretty good. They're more, I think they're based in London, but they have like
Yeah.
international ones. Music Biz Worldwide. I'm always going through that.
Mhm.
Billboard. There's a bunch
Oh
out there.
yeah.
Even like in entertainment, like Agents versus Assistants, they have like a three.
AVA.
Yeah, yeah, they're really good.
Yeah.
We
I love
we
AVA.
no,
We
they're
stand them.
we really do.
Yeah.
Okay, Allie, do you want to ask your question?
Yes, thank you. Thank you guys so much for taking the time and putting this together. It's been super cool. Um, I kind of have two questions. First, if you have just any interview tips or interview like things that you make sure you always bring to an interview, that sort of thing. As well as when you're connecting with people, whether on LinkedIn or reaching out to them in that way, how do you approach it? What do you lead with? Just like anything in that realm.
I'm gonna like the first one that you asked about the interviews. For that, I always before I go into the interview, I will reread the job description, and I will read through my interaction with whether it was the recruiter or the hiring manager or whoever it was, right? Because that is a good reminder. Because in our like not to go into psychology, but like we have such short time, like what's the word? Attention span that we forget things that we probably read 2000 times. So for me, right before I go into the interview, I would block out 20 minutes where I would just reread the job description and kind of map it out. Like, okay, this is the thing that they're looking for. This is what I've done. And how do I talk about it in a positive way? Right. And then I don't like memorizing things, but sometimes I will go in and like I have a little template that I made when I was in college and I would like reread that. That was my elevator pitch. So whenever someone asked me like, "Oh, like tell us about yourself," because everyone and I hate that question with a passion because I will start talking about One Direction. I'm not going to talk about my like skill sets. So which is also a good thing. Like if you're interviewing with someone and they know that you want this because you're passionate and like my reason for wanting to work in music is because I truly like music saved my life. One Direction, Louis Tomlinson, they saved my life. And I will tell anyone and everyone who will talk to me that I'm not here just because I want to work in the industry. I'm here because I believe that music is healing and I truly think I want to be and in 10 years, if I can say I help break an artist, that is my, like, I've done my thing. I've given back to this community that gave me back, that saved my life. So show your passion. I know a lot of people are like, oh, don't bring up your fandom or like fan experience and stuff like that. I was like, nah, I talk about that first. I talk about that first. Like, I will tell you that I learned English because of One Direction. And that, like, so talk about that. Talk about the impact and stuff like that. And I think, frankly, I mean, if any of the recruiters who ever interviewed me and gave me job offers are watching this, they can correct me. But I truly think it's the fact that my passion showed during every single conversation is how I ended up here. So that's the first part. And for the second part, I always lead with what made me find their account. So in Nashville, there's this thing called Big Next Big Thing. And last year, I was very lucky and privileged to be named in that. But it also had all of these other professionals in the industry that I wasn't aware of. So I ended up messaging a lot of them, being like, hey, like, I saw that you're on this list. Congratulations. I would love to grab coffee and learn more about you. Jump Global did a networking event, and there in the forum, they were asking questions like, what's a fun fact about you? So someone that I like really love here, I got to meet her because she put about her tiny home. And I like messaged her, and that's how I approach people. Like, people are people. We all do our work for 40 hours. But if there's another way for me to like interact with you beyond just like, hey, like I'm Himi and I'm trying to grow in my career, would love to learn more about your journey. That like good Lord knows that I hate those like that specific phrasing. That like if someone tells me like I want to learn more about your journey, I'm like, okay, it's on my LinkedIn. If you want to know me as a person, then I will respond to you. I promise. So it's just kind of like that. I don't know. I'm weird about it. I had a whole conversation this morning with a lawyer about this. So it's just like a whole thing for me. I don't know if that helped answer or like discouraged you, but like I hope it helped answer the question.
Yes, thank you so much.
No, Carol, that actually goes into one of the chat questions. Carol said that, like, what uh, kind of like examples of like how you can reach out to like music industry professionals without being like, this is what I want, this is what I'm here for, like, and because that can, in a lot of ways, that turns people off. Like when I see messages from people that I'm just like, oh, I'm interested in this. Do you have any opportunities in this? Like, unfortunately, most of the time, I will respond, but I'll just be like, oh, thanks for connecting. And that's just like the case, unfortunately. But so I guess like with this question, like, what kind of like, how do you kind of tailor each like, when you're connecting with someone online, how you tailor each response to what you're going to say to them each time?
Yeah. I think for me, for example, I reached out to this girl and I was like, hey, hi, my name's Himi, and I've been seeing your content on my LinkedIn feed recently, and it resonates with me deeply. I would love the opportunity to hop on a video call and learn more about what you're building. Because
Oh.
this is someone who's like building a startup. So I really want to understand what made them want to do that instead of like following the traditional career trajectory, right? Because sometimes I get crazy ideas of having my own company, but like, what would I even do? So like talking, so like asking those questions, but like coming at it from like I am curious and I want to learn from you. So a lot of like recently in Nashville, I've been trying to like connect with a lot of lawyers, and the way I've been doing that is like, hey, I want to learn more about deal structures, and I would love to learn from you. So like giving, and I hate saying it this way, but like coming at it from a learning perspective has always like resulted in really good like responses. And to Carol's point of like an accent, um I had to work really hard to get rid of my accent, and I did that through debate. And as depressing as that sounds, it was something that I had to do because in college I did collegiate debate. Personally, I don't think it's a hindrance as long as you have good ideas and a good perspective and you're adding value to something, whether that's like as a fan or through whatever you might be thinking. I don't think your accent is really gonna like be a hindrance because I work with a lot of like international teammates, or I used to, sorry. I was like, I'm not at BMG anymore. Uh, so like it was never an issue. I don't think it will ever be an issue unless you're working with a bigot. So
Yeah. Yeah, and unfortunately, there are some of them in the music industry.
And
But
we avoid them.
yes, we do. Unfortunately, there's a lot of, yeah, we're still trying to get equality in the music industry, is what I will say.
Yeah.
But
Yes.
okay, so Joshua, do you want to ask your question?
Yeah, I was wondering if you have any tips for anyone that doesn't necessarily live in like a music-focused city, but wants to break into the industry. Like I live in essentially like the middle of nowhere in Virginia, and I feel like it's difficult to find opportunities in person, and I feel like it's easier for me to learn hands-on.
Yeah. Well, first of all, I have a question. Where in Virginia?
I live in Newport News.
Okay, because when I first immigrated to the US, I lived in Ashburn briefly. So that's why I was just curious where. And also because a lot of the interns in Virginia in at Blue Highway this year are all from Virginia. So I was just
Mm.
like very like, whoa, small world. Anyways,
Mm.
yeah, I think a really great way to get involved in the music industry is music venues. So if there are music venues in your town, even the smaller ones, like the super small ones that don't really like, they kind of know what they're doing. But if you go in with like, hey, like, um, oh, okay, let me take a step back. What is it that you want to be doing in the music industry?
I feel like I am very open to anything, honestly. I'm really I like going to a lot of concerts and stuff. So maybe like
Yeah.
live events, something like that.
Amazing. Well, first of all, Jenna, if you want, you can put my like, I don't know if I sent you my new email, but feel free to like put my personal email in the chat.
I got
Um,
you.
Okay. Just so, first of all, like email me because I actually have a friend who works in touring. She's from Virginia. So that, or Maryland, sorry, never mind, not Virginia, but Maryland. But the way that works is like, if you want to go into that world, I would literally go to local venues, whatever size, right? Go to the theaters, go to the bars, go to the like like get to know promoters too. Like if that's the kind of thing you want to be doing, then go out and network and like
Mhm.
literally go to these venues and be like, I would love to like figure out if there's a team or an opportunity. Like I hate, like I said, I hate the fact that that's how a lot of people have started in this industry, but volunteering your time is how you kind of like learn hands on, especially if you don't live in like a Nashville or LA or New York. That's the first thing. The second thing, if you're still in college or even if you're not in college and you're a recent grad and want to apply to internships, these are paid internships. And so also like looking for those opportunities so that even if it's for a semester or like summer is like more competitive than like fall or spring. But there's a lot of different companies that also do like virtual internship. So like applying to those is also very helpful and kind of just like, getting your foot in the door.
Yeah, thank
And I
you.
will and I will say to that, like I started out as an event staff, and that was kind of like my first foot in the door. It was like 16.50 an hour, so like minimum wage, like, but it helped me get into that live, like be a part of the live industry. So even if you're not like necessarily right next to a major city like I am, I'm based like an hour from New York and an hour from Philly. Like there's definitely opportunities if you go to those like local spaces because every spot in the nation, no matter where it is, has a local music scene. No matter how small the place is, no matter how big the place is, everywhere has a local music scene. So no, you definitely got this. But okay, let's Kristen? Kirsten? How do you say your name? I'm so sorry. Do you want to go?
Yes, it's Kristen.
Okay, I got you.
But yeah, Jenna, Himi, this has been so enlightening. As a person who wants to go into marketing in the music industry, like literally learning through TikTok is one of like the main things for me that I kind of grasp to because trying to find opportunities and all that. But Kimi, something that I found super interesting is that you worked across the board and then you've worked in A&R and discovery. I wanted to know what has been your favorite kind of campaign or like project that you've worked on and you're the most proud of in your career?
I'm like trying to think what I can say without breaking NDA.
You're just like, no.
Wait, what can I say? I'm like, what is public knowledge? I'm like trying to
Anything public,
remember.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
No,
I'm like,
you're good,
wait,
you're good.
what is like a public thing that I can say? I don't know. Like, I mean, obviously can't really talk about anything I'm working on right now. That's a given. And okay, actually there is something I'm oddly proud of that I can't talk about because it's deprecated right now, but it was something that was very impactful. I was able to build an automatic report that was pulling stuff from Spotify's playlist data at store turn, and that was super helpful for our streaming team because usually what would happen is they would have to go in and like spend a lot of time on Friday to like go through every playlist to find like where the placements were. But I was able to like automate that whole process. So it was going out at like 11:25 my time, which is like right 20 minutes after store turn. So like being able to be impactful in that way where I was able to like help, that was something that I was really proud of because it saved time for the entire DSP team, specifically Spotify, and that was a huge team. Spotify is one of the biggest like digital streaming platforms. You can tell how I feel about that, and it was really helpful for the team. Like I think that was something that I was really proud of. And then there's other stuff that I've done that, you know, if it ever becomes public knowledge, I will post about it. It's
Same.
hard, man.
I
Go
know
from
it's
I work
tough.
at a German company and now I'm at a Korean company and I'm just like, I need to be like careful about what I
No,
can
I
say.
know. Because I always think about like when I first did like stuff for Niall Horan's store like on e-commerce. I was just like, I don't know if I can like talk about this. Like, am I gonna get like sued by the company?
Yeah.
But now I don't work there, so we're good.
Yeah. Yeah.
We're gonna go to our last two questions. I think Litzy has a really good question, and I think it's pretty relevant in this current day and age. Like, do you ever feel like it's too late to break into the music industry? I know with all like the job market is we're in a we're in a bad time in the job market, and a lot of people are facing like constant rejection. Like, how do you kind of not get discouraged? And do you think it's too late to break into the music industry?
No. I honestly think as long as you have the skills and are confident in your own like I think it really just comes back down to the fact that like a lot of us lack self-confidence. I know I do. I literally had a conversation with my boss today about it, like imposter syndrome, like we talked about earlier. So it's just the way you want to approach it, right? Like, why do you want to work in the music industry? I've noticed that sorry, whew, I was drinking a lot of Coke Zero today. Once I realized that what my why was, because like you know how I just told you guys about that, like I wanted to break into the industry because I want to break an artist eventually, like in 10 years or whatever that looks like, right? I didn't figure out that why until this year. I've been in the industry for what 5 years prior to that, and I didn't know my why. My why and finding out why I wanted to work in the industry really helped me figure out how to break into the industry. So also like widening my eyes to know that there's so many different sides of the industry has been super helpful. Like Jenna said, e-commerce, right? There's merchandising, there's tour, there's promotions and radio. I know a lot of people like snuff at radio, but like radio is still one of the main ways a lot of people discover music. So there's different ways. So I think kind of just like knowing your why and then getting super hyper specific about either job applications or meeting people or like even like honestly, I really wish more companies did it. Like I know internships are meant for like new employees and new graduates and stuff like that, but I really wish that requirement would change because I feel like I would have entered the industry a lot sooner in that regards because then I would have been eligible to apply to like internships for data analytics and stuff like that. So I wasn't like, so I don't know. I don't know if that's helpful, but reminding yourself that you are you are capable and you're qualified, and reminding yourself that it's never too late. If people can go to med school at 50, you can come into the music industry. I promise.
No, I fully agree. I think especially when you're seeing all these people kind of at like a college age getting these internships, and it can really like make you think like, oh, is it too late for me to pivot into the industry? But a lot of like Himi, a lot of people didn't get their start in the industry. My best friend, who is now the assistant manager at a venue in New Jersey, she worked in insurance for 2 years. So just because you're maybe not at the spot that you want to be in currently doesn't mean that you're not going to get there. But I think we're going to go to our last question. And I think this ties into what you were saying. But Rachel kind of asked, like, is it possible to make it in the industry without having a college degree? And it's also like, we're seeing, like, especially when it comes to internships, a lot of them do require that, like you're saying, which is an unfortunate thing. But are there ways to be for people to get into the industry without a college degree?
Absolutely. If you know how to do social media and like content photography and like concert photography, again, I'll go back to the whole like go to your local venue who might not have like a photographer that they go to at all times and ask them like, hey, can I photograph these artists for you, for your social media pages, for your website, for your newsletters? And if they don't have those, be like, I can help build those. I want to help you build those stuff. And that's stuff for your resume. I literally put my like degrees at the bottom after my first two jobs. And my first job, and y'all are gonna laugh, was a data entry clerk at an insurance company that I never talk about. But like that was my first job. And I was able to pivot that. But also, Rachel, you definitely email me. I would love to chat. Um, so
I also put Himi's email in the chat. I don't know if everyone saw it, but I'll add it again just in case.
thank you.
But
Yeah, like feel free to reach out, but to answer your question, Rachel, it's definitely possible. You just have to get creative in the way you approach it. Like college degrees are helpful. Like I am grateful that I got my master's degree because I needed it because my background's in data science. Like I was working in predictive modeling. I still am. Like that is still helpful for me and important to my job. But I definitely like did need my biomedical engineering degree for
mhm.
sure. I wish I went and just did data as my undergrad. I wouldn't have needed what I am my master's, or wouldn't have had to take out my student loan. So yeah.
No, and I will say, like, when I worked at UMG, a lot of people I actually worked with didn't have college degrees, like at all. And they were at the company like 5+ years. So while I would never steer anyone away from a college degree because I still think that they're very important, it's not like a necessary thing that you need to work in the music industry, especially when it comes to touring, being a stagehand, like all the aspects of the live industry. You don't need a degree for that. You just got to be able to lift like 50 plus pounds and like gets like, like so I think but from what we're saying is there's so many pathways in the music industry that I think a lot of us maybe kind of don't even realize because data analytics 5 years ago, no one would have been like, I want to work in data analytics, but a lot of people now do because they see how important it is to the music industry and how many ways that like it factors into the many aspects of it. But I'm not going to take up any more of anyone's time, but Himi, this was such a great conversation. I'm so happy that we had you as our July speaker. You were amazing, and I know you were a little nervous, so, but if I can speak for all of us, we were so happy to learn from you, for you to share your wisdom. And especially on 1D Day, we're going to keep bringing up One Direction the entire time. But
As you should.
as we should every time. But thank you all so much for being here, and I hope to see you at our next event in August.